So in this episode we're in Newcastle. I'm just about to set up to do a job for the light rail in Newcastle. One from the ground, walking, two from the bike with a camera on it, and then for the drone. Just giving Jack a last stretch of his legs. So here I'm walking around the streets of Newcastle, in and around the light rail, showing access with the DJI Osmo. So this is the setup I had on the little mad-ass motorbike, a DJI Osmo. So first I decided to do a little test to see how it all worked out. Cornering, camera stayed level, and then the straight and bumps, and just decided to test it before I actually went in and amongst all the works going on. So here's a little snippet of some of the roadworks going on around the light rail in Newcastle. So now to the drone part. This is the drone I used for the first day, and then the camera failed on it. I've had 4 cameras fail on my drones over the 9 years I've been flying them, and I replaced it with this drone to finish the aerial work. I've decided to show you this particular day I did the drone fly over the light rail. Main reason is the wind. I was very skeptical about flying it, but I did some tests, and as you can see in the top left hand corner, we had 53.7 km/h winds with 74.1 km/h gusts. The drone moved around a little bit, but it still handled it for the first part of this shoot. And then as we're starting to get closer to this intersection, I noticed that it actually started to slow, as you can see there. So I put the stick full forward, and then it actually stopped. So I've got my stick full forward and it would not move. The wind coming over these buildings made a cushion, so I decided to move a little bit sideways to the right to see if it would move forward, and it started to slowly move forward. I had it in normal flight mode, so now I'm thinking, well, I'll see how it goes and see if I can continue the fly. A few times it slowed down, and as we're going through this section, I'll just let you know I'm to the right on the grass there a little bit, and that's where my first position was for flying. So I'm continuing to fly. It slowed down a little bit, then sped up. So then I decided to put it into the sports mode to see how it would react with there, and it handled the wind without a problem. So I'm just about here, and I just click it into sports mode. I wanted a fairly wide open area where I could do it, and then there you can see it actually speed up. So yeah, I was quite surprised it handled wind to this this strength. For this particular shoot, it was like over 2 kilometres of rail I was actually filming. So I had my first point, which I showed you earlier. So I flew from that point back to the start of the light rail, flew to where I was standing on the grass, and then I actually walked up with it to the next point. So I went 600 metres one way, and then from where I stood the first time, it was another 800 metres to my next point where I stopped. So I actually did a fly like 1.4 kilometres long, but I was in the middle, so I was only 600 one way, 800 the other way. So we're coming up to this intersection here, and this is my next point where I stop. Then I get into my motorbike and drive to my next point, bring the drone back to this point and fly on. I'll show you. So I'd already got in my motorbike, moved it to this point. From where I was standing, it's about another 300 metres down this line. So I flew back to the start of this point, which is about 300 metres away, and then started to fly to it. This is probably the shorter part of the fly, but there was high building, so I had to keep it short, so I kept my eye on the drone at all times, line of sight. So just here I'm probably a little bit nervous here because the building coming up has got telephone towers on there, and they tend to interfere once before with the drone just here, but this time it seemed to push through, maybe because I was probably about 60 metres high or 40 metres high. The point we just passed is where I was standing, and then it's probably another 400 metres or 500 metres to my next point of the part that my customer wanted me to film. So here we are at the end of Hunter Street, and the light rail veers off in between some buildings and goes down to Wickham. But this is as far as I needed to shoot for this particular client. So I just turned it around, give them a little bit of a view and show a little bit of the roadworks that goes from this intersection all the way back to Honeysuckle. So now to something totally different. A friend of mine, Jacqueline, and Grant, her friend, wanted me to film them doing this surf. This is Jacqueline's first time in the surf in a long time. So it's not a client, it's just doing this for a friend. And this is the result. I had a little bit of fun. I didn't fly my Phantom 4 Pro, I flew my Phantom 4. Main reason because this is not a commercial job, this was just for fun, and I tend to not put my best drone at risk for fun. And it reminded me how much of a leap drones have come in just one model. So I went from this is the Phantom 4 to the Phantom 4 Pro, and I really missed my Phantom 4 Pro and its characteristics and it's the way it flew. So there was a little bit of adjustment to learn how to fly an older drone, which is my backup drone, my Phantom 4, just to get a handle back on what we were doing. But yeah, it was an interesting shoot. Jacqueline had given me some sort of a brief of what she wanted, but then when we were over the water I sort of had a free hand, so I really was able to experiment and really have some fun in doing a shoot the way I wanted to do it, with a little bit of a brief from Jacqueline. So this is Grant's first wave I captured. Jacqueline fell off the back of it. Thought I'd just throw that in. So as people do while they're waiting on a wave, have a little bit of fun. So Jacqueline organised her daughter Rochelle to film from Jacqueline's camera on the ground. So I thought I'd just throw in a little bit of the how-to footage. So one of the hardest things I found, not being a surfer myself, or I did for a couple of years, but yeah, it's not my thing. I found it hard timing the waves. So when I thought there were no waves ready to go, I would go in close and then circle around, and then sometimes just sit there waiting for a wave to come, like I was here. So this is Jacqueline's first wave in a long time. Did really well for her first wave. Just as a side note, I really enjoyed this shoot, and actually there's not much I do shooting just for myself or just for fun, mainly commercial work, and it opened my eyes to how much fun I can have just to go out and do something for myself or a friend. I just want to say a big thank you to Grant, Caveman, his nickname, Rochelle for her help with the filming on the ground for her mother, and Jacqueline herself, which her business is Love Capture Passion. She's a filmmaker herself.
So thank you for watching our video. We really appreciate it. Come join us on the journey, either through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube or our website.
Without your generous support, we would not be able to produce these videos. So please go to our Patreon page and support us, or go to our YouTube channel and subscribe.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the wind crying